Action Comics #1 going up for sale earlier this morning. The 0.5 back cover missing origin and first appearance of Superman, as well as Lois Lane and Zatara. But there you see it, boys and girls. Action Comics #1. If you wanted your entry-level copy into Action Comics #1, the floor price is now $408,000. $408,000. That is actually a very impressive sale. And that's one of the interesting things, I think, with a lot of these mega key books is, you have like the people who really care at the top, right? They really, really care at the top because the highest grade on the census is obviously going to command like, the biggest flex potential. And then you have the people who just want the book. Like, I just want to get in the club. And so you have the floor price. And then you have a lot of tweener stuff where obviously it all matters, but like if it's a nice presenting 4.5 and it's a nice presenting 6.0, I mean, maybe the grade psychology matters to certain collectors, but at the same time, like, sometimes those window margins aren't as significant. I mean, they always are in these mega grails. But generally speaking, where I'm going with this is that for these mega grails, like the floor prices, just the get in the club price is usually not equal to the point per grade ratio that you see with a lot of these books. So even though that this book right here is a 0.5 with a back cover missing, still requires you to spend $408,000. And I had some of the previous sales pulled up here. And obviously Action 1, not a book that goes on sale too often. Actually, let me pull this up really quick. You guys know 44 universal copies, which this is one of the 44, 78 total graded, right? So how many raw books are out there at this point? I don't know. I mean, if you have an Action Comics 1, are you not getting it graded at this point? I mean, just for preservation, safety. I mean, not really preservation, but you guys know what I mean. Like just to have it in a case, protected a little bit. You can see the last couple sales for this. The last one we had was in September of 2022. So it's been a calendar year. And the last one was this 8.5 restored with quite a bit of restoration. Color touches, pieces added, tear seals, cleaned, reinforced, all three edges trimmed. And this is one that's kind of interesting because it's like a significant amount of restoration, but it presents beautifully, right? I mean, like once you have it in there and you have all this restoration done, I mean, it's a beautiful looking copy. And that one went for $350. Now, this 0.5 that went up for sale where I lost my place, this 0.5 went up for sale. I mean, it's like as ugly as you get, right? As like a kind of a copy here, no back cover, all this rat chew down here, and corner missing here, massive stain here, chipping, corner missing, all that stuff. But at the same time, this sold for more than this previous restored copy. How do you guys feel about that? Do you guys feel like you would rather have the beat up 0.5 with a missing back cover, or do you feel like you'd rather have this 8.5 restored that presents beautifully? I know my answer, but I'm curious what you guys think. But either way, the point where I'm going with that, here you have the 6.0 restored that went for $300,000. You had this 9.4 restored in 2019 that went for $252,000. So a lot of these restored books, another extensive one, Married Centerfold and things like that. But either way, like the entry level price point for this book is so competitive, right? It's so competitive, even at the ground level. And people really seemingly do prefer the blue label. They really do prefer the blue label just because, I don't know, like everyone has the bias, right? Like people want the book in the state in which it was the most closest to its natural form, I suppose, right? That's what people want. Let's see here. Comic Duder says resto for sure. Okay. Michael says I'd rather have the 8.5. Eggplant says I take the restored book all day. And Troy also, I definitely take the restored copy. Wow. A lot of you guys are saying restored. Seems that the price of book market, what seems to be anecdotally true is that the market prefers blue labels almost always. I mean, obviously there's a breaking point, right? And it depends on what the book is. But in this particular case, I mean, that blue label purchase is more preferred than that of the purple label restored. I mean, that's what it's showing. So it's really interesting. I think it depends on the book for me personally. What I feel like I would want it restored for versus what I think I would want a blue label for. I actually kind of think in this particular instance, I might prefer the blue label Action 1. I feel like maybe there's a charm to a book like that being so beat up. Does that make sense? You know what I mean? Like it feels like more historic because it's so beat up. That would be what I would tell myself after I spent $400,000 on a piece of paper that looked like it was rolling around in a sewer gutter. That's the cope I would have to have. I think this was one of the cool books to see. One of the great, obviously, first appearance of Superman, and it's not too often you see it. I mean, it's been a year since we've seen this go on sale, and we haven't seen a blue label in quite a while. Now, a book that is not as rare, Amazing Fantasy 15. This was the I think the highest graded AF 15 that went on sale. This particular auction is in the previous thing, closed for $75,000. And one of the reasons why I wanted to talk about it is that I actually think that that is a pretty respectable sale for the book that, we've talked about how, it's had haircuts and it's had corrections and stuff like that. But eventually it was going to find that place where it reset to sort of a good spot, and I think AF15 has done that. I think it actually got too low for a little bit of time, considering that this is a forever book that everybody wants, even though it's 2,465 universal copies and it has, relative scarcity compared to some of the Golden Age books. But again, the demand is there for this book always, right? And I think 75,000 is a good price for this book. I mean, it's not quite the last sale at 78. It's not quite where it was at 93. There was one for 65,000 that sold on eBay, but still, again, where it sells now at 75 is still well above what it was going for in 2020. And as we've been kind of, evaluating with, the index stuff and taking a look at the numbers and trying to make determinations of where we are in the market, I think we're back into a place where we're definitely starting to see settling of prices for the high grade Marvel blue chips, right? And that's how it used to always be. If you read any like collector books, like written by people who are in the antiques and collectibles trades and things like that, one of the big things that they always talk about is that you want to be in the top 10% of any collectible in order for it to be truly a, investable thing. And that's what we're talking about here. At a 6.0 AF15, you can see one of the things I like about Go Collects, they actually have the percentage here. You're basically in the top percent. You're top 10%. You're top 12.8. So you're in the top 13. And so this is investable level grade. And the reason you want to be at this range is because obviously the higher up you go, the less there are, the less chances there are going to be people who are paper handing it, the less times it's going to go up for auction, the more that the natural rate of inflation is going to be on a long enough time horizon so that the next time it does go up for sale, it's going to have appreciated. And we're kind of at that point where, you're starting to see it, like this book right here, AF15 at the 6.0. And then similarly, there was this Incredible Hulk #1 at the 7.5 that also sold at 84,000. And that is a very, very respectable number for this book as well. So I think that's a good sign of the market, where we are, like while we're seeing corrections in sort of mid grades and maybe not like the mega blue chip stuff, right? Like a book like FF48, that's more common Silver Age key. We're still seeing some corrections there, but you're slowly starting to reestablish, okay, guys, here's where we are. The mega keys at the high grades are starting to settle in. And then eventually you'll start to see the mega keys at the mid to low grades will start to settle in again. And the floors will be healthily established. And that's a good sign. That's a good sign for everything in the market. A couple more books that I wanted to talk about here was this one, Silver Surfer #4 in a CGC 9.8 off white to white pages. This one was featured in the earlier auction today. Nice looking copy. I mean, It's a 9.8. You better get a nice looking copy, right? Well, spine tick. Can't have spine ticks on a 9.8. You can, guys. It is allowed to have spine ticks on a 9.8. But a nice looking copy right here. The only problem is, I feel like this is always kind of an issue. I mean, do you guys, this has to annoy some of you guys as well, right? When you have a 9.8 and has off-white to white pages, like just give it white pages, right? Like why you got to do it? Why you got to do the book like that, you know? But this one's selling for $66,000, a large number, but definitely a lot less than the prior sale. But this was going to be expected because, I mean, this was one of those ones where, again, you had to get the COVID money out of it, right? 9.8 selling in 2021, June of 2021 for $90,000. Now you can say this one did have white pages and had this little, what is this? The Oregon collection or something like that. I don't really even know what that stamp is. And maybe you could say this is a nicer looking copy. Doesn't have that one spine tick down there. But generally speaking, $90,000 was a lot. I mean, look at the graph, guys. You know, July of 2020, 17.9, boom, goes up to 90,000, right? 10x in 1 year. So too much money to go up, too much to expect. 25 copies at the 9.8 level. So I actually say $66,000 is almost in line, perfectly in line to sort of the correction that we've seen for a lot of Silver Age mega keys and what we've seen in the index, right? Where a lot of stuff has had sort of that 40% pullback, you know, or so. Some books have had more, 50, 60% pullbacks, but pretty much kind of right in line to that. So while it is a haircut from the prior sale, it is still a good number for that book to be hitting. It's still the second highest number that book has ever sold for. And it's a great book.